So in terms of you as an actor, how did this one kind of come about? Did you get the scripts first,
Yeah.
or your agents and everybody kind of showed you a
Yeah.
bit?
I mean, it was one of those serendipitous sort of offers, because Ado, who produced the show, is a a friend of mine from like way back when. I did a show of his at the Edinburgh Festival when I was 18, before I went to RADA. So I've known Ado for years, and so we went for lunch over the lockdown, and he told me about this job that he got. It wasn't called Deceit back then, but what is now Deceit. And he was telling me about all the COVID measures that he'd put in place, and that he'd sort of, it'd been a lot of hard work, but he pulled it off, and it was Channel 4 really happy. And we didn't really discuss whether there was anything in it for me. And we've got that sort of friendship where I wouldn't be like, oh, is there a role in it for me, mate? No, and then essentially the director was watching I Hate Susie, saw me in it, and called up the producers, Ado, and the writer, and was like, I found our Baz, Nathaniel Martello-White. And so it was a funny little sort of serendipitous circle. And so, it was just great to be offered the role. And then I was sent the scripts, and then I looked at the material and looked at the character. And then we had a few conversations how we would sort of beef him up a bit, because he was always important to the story, but I think we sort of wanted to go deeper into this idea that Sadie and Baz have this history, and that it's about the sort of code. There's what's so cool about playing characters like this is that there's a tribalism, about these characters, and especially with undercovers and handlers. And so it's almost like being in recovery. I almost saw it as like I could have been her sponsor from AA, trying to keep her from sort of, slipping back in. So, yeah.
And then obviously with the role that you're playing, I mean, it's not something that you would know kind of offhand. It's not like if you did a play, you might have the text or anything else. The character exists in the real world kind of thing. So in terms of your research, was there people that you spoke to? Was there people that gave you advice as to how these people kind of operate in the real world?
No, I just sort of watched a lot of I've played a few cops, so I've kind of met a few detectives, along the way. Like in Collateral, I played a DI, and sort of, you hear a lot about the way they operate. And I think there's a thing with the police, that there's a way they hold themselves physically, the way they read body language, the way they're sort of psychologically wired, which is very interesting to play. So I would never sit like me or sort of hold myself like me. I gesture, I use my hands a lot. I sort of think someone like Baz is much more contained, much more focused. And then I guess for me, it's just more, I sort of researched into, a lot of those police officers that went undercover and kind of got married to the people they were investigating, and like all of the ethics around that, and ended up like having children with them, and all this sort of crazy stuff. And for me, I guess I was just thinking about it in terms of there is a mirror. Being a performer, you're playing a role. And I think these undercovers are playing at being something they're not. They're playing a role. So there was quite a helpful sort of parallel there. But then I think ostensibly, when it's you and another actor, you can't get too bogged down with that. Ultimately, you have to be open and alive to what's happening moment for moment.
Yeah. And what about the I was very interested in the snap/card game that you two play. Did they? Oh
yeah.
Is that a specific thing that they do to try and keep? It's almost like reminded me in a completely different way. It doesn't anywhere connect to this. But I'm a huge fan of Friends, and in Friends they do a quiz where they have to answer really quickly, and they give honest answers and stuff. But I was just wondering what kind of the basis was for that. Did they give you any kind of indication as to why they do that technique?
I sort of feel like it is a game they play, and it is a method they use to just see how versed you are in your character's bio, your backstory. But I think we flipped it we changed the card game. I think it was written as a different card game, and I can't remember what card game it was, but we flipped it to a different one, basically, to sort of make it work for us. But whether it's true or not, I thought it was a great way in, to establish their relationship.
Yeah, it's a good balance as well, because you technically you're having to concentrate on the game as well as everything else. So it's kind of a good way to, I guess, for them to keep their character. Keep her on a toe.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, it's almost like I'm her, like, you know, kung fu, you know, master or something. You know, not. I don't want to say the word master. That sounds silly, but you know, in a way, like, it's like you've got a fighter who's getting ready for this fight, and you're trying to keep them mentally rigorous. You know, trying to keep them where they need to be at. Don't be hubristic. Don't underestimate the opponent. The opponent is dangerous, and so it was quite nice, you know, having that sort of dynamic with her, I guess.
Yeah. When I did a title for the post on the website, I'll put you're the Mr. Miyagi of Deceit.
Yeah. Basically that. Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask about working with Niamh as well, because I've interviewed her a couple of times.
Yeah.
And she's so lovely, and she's slowly becoming such a kind of force in films and on television on so many arrays.
Absolutely.
Well. What was it like working with her? Because she's picked so many she's been so diverse in the things that she's done, whether she's done, she's done Censor recently, she's done a big Ridley Scott thing. She seems to be so comfortable with whatever's thrown at her or whatever she throws herself into.
Amazing. I mean, just a pure actor. You know, you're working with somebody who, you know, when you're working with an artist, they're sort of coming from the soul. And so even something like before I got on set, Niamh got in touch with the producers and was like, would Nat be up for doing a couple of Zooms and just discussing all the scenes and going through them and discussing the relationship between the characters. She didn't need to do that, you know, and that was super helpful for me, which meant when I arrived on set, not only had I met her on Zoom, but I'd sort of met her, you know, through Zoom. And also we hit the ground running. We'd already established that rapport. And that was very giving, you know, of her to do that because she was super busy in every scene. And working with Niamh was like, I don't know, like actors are like creatures, you know, we're like different breeds of creature. And sometimes you just sit down in front of an actor and you start playing and you just know, it's just a good frequency you're in. And I think with Niamh, it's just, I felt like we could go there, you know, and we could play, you know, because there's nothing worse working with an actor who isn't able to sort of be receptive and then make an offer. Like that card game, you know, you're making offers, you're bouncing off each other. You know, I mean, it was just, it was a great experience and, you know, a very rewarding one.
Yeah. So. The last thing I was going to ask you was about you as an actor and playing Baz and stuff. I mean, I know you've done loads of plays, loads of TV, and not many people, you know, start early in their career doing Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants Part 2. You know, calling card. But in terms of Baz as a character, when you read him and saw what he was about, did you feel that it was a kind of a different shade of stuff that you've maybe done stuff before, but it was different and that was exciting for you?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, it was different for me. I mean, even though I played in Collateral, I was playing quite a sort of moody detective who felt undervalued. But with this, it felt different because it felt more, for me, it felt more like doing a movie, like the role, the sort of psychology of the role and the relationship felt really cinematic. And coming off Mangrove and I Hate Susie, it was just great to do something that was very contained and very still. And it's not always that you get to play those characters. So I was just super interested in the story, obviously the real life story, and working with Niamh, you know, and kind of, and here's the thing, I didn't really overthink it because it was sort of, we're in the pandemic and the offer comes in and, you know, 2 weeks later you're on set. And so I didn't have time to get in my head about it, which I think was good. I just sort of went with it, you know.
Hey, that's what that's probably, especially at that time, it was probably just get some work and go do it. Yeah.
Nice to get out of the house, you know.
Exactly. Nathaniel,
totally.
Thanks so much for your time. Absolute pleasure chatting
to you.
Not at all. And enjoy the seaside.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, man. You take care.
Cool.
Nice one.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!